So welcome to the next edition of the Cybersecurity Career Intelligence Podcast. As you know, every week I'm interviewing an expert in careers and in cybersecurity, and in some cases, careers both. And today I'm very happy to have Frank Kovacs, who's someone I've been acquainted with for many years. And he is a leading expert in many aspects of global business technology. Beyond that, he's also given back to the community in many different ways to help people with the idea of career transitions. So welcome to the podcast, Frank.
Thank you very much, Fred.
And thank you for joining in. So Frank has received many different awards over the years. Let me just read a few of these. He has been recognized as a recipient of the Gartner CIO Choice Award, the Visionary Award from Business Finance Magazine and Internet World, the Ovation Award at ComNet. He was named a visionary for his 12 years of work at AT&T Bell Labs. But the reason I have him here is he's recently published a very interesting book called Career in Transition. And many of the people in our cybersecurity program, in fact, many people are in some type of career transition. Unemployment's low, but still there's something like 40 million people every year changing jobs. So the idea of career transition is one that's really top of mind with a lot of people. So I wanted to ask you, Frank, if you could kind of introduce your book a bit and what was the genesis of it? And then I have a few questions that I'd love to follow up with.
Sure. The book is called Career in Transition, 101 Lessons to Achieve Job Search Success. And the book is basically a compilation of 18 years that we've been leading a group called the Breakfast Club NJ for New Jersey. The group over that time frame has developed into the premier job search and career management group within the tri-state area. We have over 6,000 members now from every profession and every industry, everybody from students in college that are looking for their first internship or their first job professionally, all the way through very experienced C-level executives. About 800 people in the group are sitting C-level executives. So the book really pulls from the best practices. The group basically was in 3 periods. When we first founded the group, we looked at every aspect of job search, and we found that it was really a broken process. And we looked at how to take advantage of different ways to make the case with your resume, how to turn an unknown job into a known job in order to get a recommendation into the hiring manager, how to use things like T-letters. And each of those are best practices that are covered in the lessons. And each one is meant to give you an edge on that specific lesson. But when you string them together end to end, it pushes the job seeker far ahead of the rest of the pack. And with that, over the years, we started out to help the people who had lost their jobs due to the 9/11 tragedy, but the economic and the financial crises of the country, as well as all the veterans we have returning to civilian life, it was critical to keep the group going to help that. So the second phase that we went through was heavily embracing social media. So LinkedIn, Facebook, a Yahoo group, meetup.com, Twitter, all of these different social media are great ways to utilize them in your search to your advantage. And finally, the last several years has all been around, I came up over 5 years ago with what I call the call to action. And basically, all the jobs are now changing in both the names of the jobs, the responsibilities of the jobs, as digital transformation takes hold. And we teach the people really how to look at their profession and their industry and basically create a 4-grid block. One shows the functions and the value that they deliver, that their profession delivers. And on the other scale, we show the probability that that task or that responsibility could be automated, so that an individual could plot out all the responsibilities for the profession that they're seeking and look for that sweet spot of the high value tasks that aren't going to be automated and look to position themselves within that space.
That's very good. So can I add, the book obviously has many years of knowledge built into these 101 lessons. In today's sort of low unemployment economy, do the principles apply to people, let's say, that are trying to move from one field of information technology to another? So a lot of our students, we have master's degree online students, they're already in information systems in some way, shape, or form. They want to move into a more information security role. So it's that type of career transition. Would you think that what you have in there would apply to them as well?
Yes, the book applies to all the different scenarios, especially the ones you're talking about, because if you really know how to network and can build a strong resume and a strong network and a strong brand out there, that's what it allows you to make that transition from what you may have been doing to what you want to do. So I'll use a classic example, COBOL programmers. People had a lot of years experience doing COBOL programming, and it was great fundamentally to teach them the different aspects of technology, how to take logic, how to program it, and learn everything. But now let's say they want to become a data scientist or a cybersecurity specialist. They can go through the education, but how will they make it through the interview? Because they don't necessarily have the experience to demonstrate that they now have the experience in their newly sought profession. So what this allows you to do is to really break it down and look at the value of those years of experience, even though they weren't necessarily in cybersecurity, and how to apply them in the interview through your PARs, your problem action results, to resonate with the employer or hiring manager, because they're looking for somebody that's been there, done it, and is going to take that problem off of their shoulders. And it's that years of experience that gives them that security blanket, that you're the type of individual that's a cultural fit for them, and you also have the mechanics and the foundation from the continuing education.
Yeah,
And
that's
today, it's so critical that everybody be a continuous learner. Everything in digital is moving at such a rapid pace. There's really no area that isn't being changed. So I highly recommend people to be constantly engaged, constantly challenging themselves and learning new aspects.
I think and I think you've kind of followed your own advice. I looked at your resume. I think you have several degrees, or 3 or 4 more degrees. I
Yeah.
read it right. So he's walked the walk and not just talked about it. So I have people, especially in tech, we talk about, we use tech a lot, right? Usually. So how would you compare and contrast the use of technology in this whole search process versus the human component? People say, well, you should spend 80% of your time doing online job search, or 20%. What are your thoughts on how to manage your time properly, given all of our love of technology?
We found over the years, if people were honest with themselves and they looked back through their career, most of the jobs that they've gotten in their career was somehow linked to networking. It could have been a former boss. It could have been a college, colleague, or a former professor. There are so many different ways that you get introduced to opportunities. But when you have that network out there that understands your brand, the value you bring to the table, that's really how you get access to what we call the hidden job market. And everybody thinks that, there's some secret list out there called the hidden job market. But really what it is, each of these managers have a responsibility that's entrusted to them. And with that, they have a budget and they have headcount that they have to fulfill that job. So one of the best things that could happen is if you're just casually networking with an individual, and as you're talking with them and finding out about their firm's culture and talking about the value that you bring to the table, there's a match that individual as a hiring manager is saying, oh, wait a second, this guy has that skill, or this, woman could really help out in this vein. And that's where you make the connection. And now they may have the headcount available, they may have the funding already approved, and now they can go to HR and say, I want this individual to round out my team. So really the networking should be going on 70 to 80% of the time. Now, one resource I could share with you is one of the individuals in my group is a gentleman named Alex Freund. And Alex has a site called landingexpert.com, and he's a career coach. And he doesn't do it for money. He keeps up the site just to help people. But that is a compilation. Years ago, you probably remember, Fred, it was called Hibbard's List.
Yeah.
Well, he took over Hibbard's List, and he has a massive database of all the networking groups and contacts there of who's leading them, logistics of when they meet, and what the group is about. So there's groups there for everything, based upon industry, based upon profession, every type of networking group you could want. And that's really what the people need to look at, is go comprehensively through that list, find those groups that they feel are going to be helpful to their search or close to them in geography, whatever their criteria may be, and then go to those networking groups and really leverage them to their advantage.
Yeah, that's outstanding advice. So landingexpert.com, take a look at that. And I have one other question. I love the points that you have in your book because they're broken down into kind of bite-sized things. You don't have this big fancy theory where you have to read 300 pages. You can do it one page at a time, which is excellent. And one very interesting point, you use this phrase, it's important who knows you versus who do you know? Can you explain the difference there? I think everybody knows, it's who you know and that kind of thing, but you said something different. Who knows you? What did you mean by that?
So when you're going into these networking meetings,
Yeah.
Everybody always tries to clamor to go to the individual with the highest title or, who works for the company that, happens to be the darling of Wall Street at that time. But really, each one of them have to think about it. How are they going to introduce themselves and interface themselves with all the new people they're meeting in a substantive way that's going to create a relationship?
So thank you so much for all your good insight. I really think you've got many years of looking at changes in the technology industry and personally helping people navigate all those changes. So I want to thank you for your time. And could you show people the book again? And it's Career in Transition. And is this available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever one might want to get books?
Exclusively through Amazon. All you have to do is go to Amazon and either put in the title, Career in Transition, 101 Lessons to Achieve Job Search Success, or you could put in my name, Frank Kovacs, and the word book, and it'll bring it right up. And we've been doing very good with the book. If you look out there, we've had a lot of great responses from people in the military who've read it, and it's helped them, major executives. Also, even entrepreneurs have said that the lessons have been very helpful to them because they too constantly have to be networking and engaging with individuals. And they found a lot of the lessons very helpful. And the lessons are grouped in such a way when you look in the table of contents. So if you want to focus on a certain area like interview prep or resume, they're grouped together. So this way, you know which of the lessons pertain to which of the different competencies that you're trying to build.
Outstanding. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Thanks again, Frank, for talking with us and sharing all your wisdom. And have a good evening, everybody. And we'll talk to you again next week with another expert.
Thanks, Fred. I hope you have a great evening.
Okay.